We did Stanley, the Killer Snake movie, and Impulse. And those of you who were here, we did Stanley. The star of Stanley, Chris Robinson, was the main director. There are two people who worked on this film, but he was the main director on Poor Pretty Eddie. So if you guys are here when Chris Robinson was here, this is a film that he made. And I'm going to pass this over to Zack and Lars and let them say a few words before we start up the next film.
For those of you who did enjoy the film, things are about to get rural. There's going to be a similar lack of morality to what you just seen. I mean, there's just a ton of things about it that are really mysterious. One of them being that the star of the film is Leslie Uggams, who was a respectable entertainer that somehow opted to play the lead in a film that was alternately titled Redneck County Rape. So that in itself, and she puts in a really earnest and a really strong performance in this film, but she is just one of a cast that you are absolutely not going to accept as real. In fact, the people in this movie does not exist. It cannot exist. The cast is ridiculous. It has all of the great hillbilly actors are in one movie together. Well, actually, there's just these two that are absolutely iconic. They are like the Saturn and Jupiter of hillbillies that are in this movie. And that is Dub Taylor. And then Mr. Slim Pickens. You guys better be glad that Dub Taylor's dead, because he would have been really depressed to hear that uneven amount of applause just now.
After you see the movie, you will have a lot more applause in your hands for Dub Taylor.
Okay. Apparently, not only did we already mention two titles of this film, but this print is under a third title, which is Black Vengeance. Is that correct?
Yeah, Black Vengeance. It's also known as Heartbreak Motel.
There is a really, really heartfelt and I think enduring performance from a guy named Ted Cassidy, who most of us would know as Lurch from the Addams Family. And his character may be, like, to me, the most kind of crucial and endearing part of this entire film, even though they just kind of cast him as a heavy, as this kind of like giant, somewhat interestingly shaped man to fill this role. But the performance that he puts in really, I think, elevates the film, even in his bit character part.
Obviously, Ted Cassidy's performance, he's the like key person who actually changes during the course of the film, which kind of almost makes him the main character. Leslie Uggams had been a big star, like a big singing star, had been on like the Ed Sullivan Show or like the Arthur Godfrey Talent Scouts or something, had been like one of the first crossover black stars into white American culture. So it was, when you see her in this movie and she plays a singing star named Liz Weatherly, it kind of is almost her playing herself, and it's shocking in the way that it kind of makes this little side trip into reality from this insane and irresponsible film. Another really interesting thing about this movie is it was, there were a lot of movies, not a lot, but there were quite a few movies of this type that were made, that where a person like goes into a rural area and learns a little bit about rural people at the expense of their own hide. But what really sets it apart, and sets it apart from the pack of all those other movies of this type, is the fact that it was made at a time when film experimentation was at its height. People were watching all these European films, and so the viewpoint that you get from the directors, and especially the editor of this film, are very European in nature. The guy who edited this movie is a guy named Frank Mazzola, or he was the special editor. I mean, I think he was like the editor for fucked up shit. Like there was a regular editor, and then let's give this scene to Frank. See what he can do with it. But Frank had done exactly the same thing in a movie called Performance. Yeah! All right. Imagine Performance, this English crime mindfuck movie starring Mick Jagger, and then Redneck County. Like the same guy worked on both of those movies. And he does a lot of the same stuff on both movies in terms of, you know, segmenting time, slow motion. In fact, the slow motion, would you agree that the slow motion climax of this film is like being punched in the face by a dwarf?
It makes Sam Peckinpah look like Michael Bay.
Like this.
Well, I'm just saying, no. Keep your mouth shut till you've seen it. For slow motion climaxes of a film.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, hell maybe. You don't know yet.
If you've still got beef after you watch this movie, come see About Me. So, we talked about it, we've discussed it, we've shared information with it. Anybody want to see it?
But before we start, I really want to encourage everybody to issue forth a noise with your hands and mouth of appreciation for Sybil Danning to come out here tonight. It wasn't to slow the Redneck County roll, but I thought it was important to pay tribute to the most beautiful and powerful woman who's ever walked the earth. So, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sybil. Good night. And now that you've issued things from your mouth, this will now be the end of mouth issuance for the next hour and a half. I was hearing from people, that's the quietest I've ever heard a crowd in this theater. Wow, threats of physical violence really do work. So, you've been great about shutting the fuck up. Please continue to shut the fuck up during this movie. And enjoy Redneck County, a.k.a. Black Vengeance, a.k.a. Heartbreak Motel, a.k.a. Redneck County Rape. Psycho from Texas is the movie that we're going to see. This is a big one for us to play because we're from Texas. Well, we're coming from Texas. And anybody here from Texas?
And they're a little nuts.
Yeah. A giant dude right there, that 6'4", Gary Cooper-sized cowboy is from Texas. So we are from Texas, and this movie is also from Texas, and it was a very, very low-budget movie that I didn't actually ever think was released in theaters until I recently found a movie poster of it, where it was released in theaters under the title Wheeler. And this movie was it was a psycho killer kind of movie. What makes this movie go, I think, really, what ties it together is the music that comes through, and there is, and continuing on the themes that you've just seen. By the way, Frank Mazzola, ladies and gentlemen, the editor of that film. But really what ties Psycho from Texas together is the music and the flashbacks, because you're going into the psycho killer Wheeler's mind and seeing everything that he does. There are moments in this movie, moments of 12 to 43 minutes, where you'll be experiencing intense boredom. Hang in there, because everything else that's bookending that boredom is going to be so worth it. The movie kind of has a schizophrenic way that it happens. As the plot goes on, it just changes, and a whole other like new scenes that were filmed to make it more exciting come in. Particularly, there's like a shootout scene that they felt like they needed was added. Also, Linnea Quigley came in and does one scene for some reason. It's a great scene. The guy who plays Wheeler is a guy named John King III. He was also in The Black Angels, and I don't know of anything else he's been in, but he is not a polished actor, but he sure does bring entertainment value. His sidekick is a guy named Tommy Lamey, and you know Tommy Lamey?
Yeah, we do. We're his friends.
Okay.
Is he here?
No.
Can we talk?
Tommy!
Let's talk after this movie about Tommy Lamey. Anyway, because I've been looking for him. I know he does voiceover work and stuff.
Yes, that's how we know.
Okay, I need to...
So why is he not here tonight?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. It's a good question.
If Tommy Lamey was here, I would, my head would explode. When you see Tommy Lamey in this movie, he is so good. He plays like Wheeler's kind of sidekick Slick, who's always got a toothpick in his mouth. And he's so fucking good. And I thought he was just like a dumbass Southern dude, but apparently he's a pretty good actor if he's still working as an actor all these years later. But yeah, when you see this guy Tommy Lamey as Slick, he will make you want to have a mentally retarded sidekick named Slick that follows you around and does your dirty work for you. Can you think of anything else that you really want to say about this movie? Because I think we just go into it and just people are going to find little things to enjoy about it.
Let's just rage on the movie, but this is our last chance again to thank Brian and Eric for the show.
No shit, yeah. Thank you.
And again, thank these guys for coming in because they brought these prints in we normally wouldn't have access to. So.
And just one more time, I just want to drop the fact that there's going to be a talking chimpanzee on the screen, live action, tomorrow night.